Okay, well, welcome to another session of Innovative Career Coaching. Today what we're going to do is actually start off with the introduction to show the different areas where we have some challenges. If you don't deal with those challenges, we actually hamper or sabotage or block our innovation. That all of us can innovate. So for the introduction, we are actually going to deal with the areas that you might not be aware of, but these areas are very challenging to a lot of people. And the first area we're going to deal with the common myths about career, or the common myths about innovating or being innovators in a career. All right. One of them is culture. One of the challenges with our culture is that we were taught by our parents, we were taught by schools, we were taught by communities. And based upon the community or even the country or the family that we grew up in, could teach us some things that could actually block our innovative capability. Now, one of the big issues is that people believe what they learn, most of the time. They believe something because they have learned it. But it's another thing to believe something that you haven't learned, but believe in an idea, even though you didn't learn that this can actually be done. And because of how we were taught how to believe things, how to accept things as reality, our culture influences us to believe and accept certain things. And that could actually hamper our ability to innovate or produce. Most of us grew up where we were taught to go to school to get a good grade so that we can get a good job, so that we could get enough money to take care of our lives. That's the end result. Because the people who are teaching us, they have a high value for money and know that in their mind, if you don't get a good grade and you wouldn't be able to get a good job, they'll pay you enough so that you could afford, that big word, afford life, comfortable life, vacation, groceries, transportation, clothes, all the trappings that has to do with normal life, right? And that's a cultural training. It's a cultural thing. But what it does is that it hampers a lot of people from the gifted genius because of how they were cultured. Another big thing is education, which is part of culture, but it's more focused. It actually deals with getting us to get grades or getting us to become first or second, but in a particular narrow area. And the problem with that narrow area is that it only focuses on a few subjects, and there are millions of subjects around the world, needing millions of solutions in millions of different industries. Problem is, because we are trained to focus on certain subjects in my country, in English and maths, in order to get a good grade, and then maybe when you go to another level, science, the challenge with it is that it restricts a lot of the other people who are not gifted in these areas. And therefore, they try to become something that they're not. And therefore, the innovation gets stifled. And that's a big challenge, that education helps us to get a good career, which is really not true. Just as how we are cultured, they think that that helps us to get a good career. And that is not true either. So these myths are very, very subtle, very profound, very powerful. Another one is our belief system, what we believe as true. Now, this one is actually the biggest, because regardless of how we were cultured or educated or anything else around our environment, we have a choice to believe or not to believe what people are telling us, whether it's our teachers or parents or colleagues, or we could believe it for a particular time and then we stop believing. My mentor, Dr. Miles, I remember he's saying that something he was taught by his parents, and he told his dad, he said, he don't believe it anymore, is that experience is the greatest teacher. And he used to believe it. But then he come to realize, wait a minute, experience is a good teacher, but it's not the best, because experience could teach you to avoid some things which you really need to engage and create the solutions for. And that could be a really, really big stumbling block. So your belief system is affected by our environment or by the ideas that we have. And of course, those ideas that we have could be affected by how you're cultured or educated or all the other things. But at the end of the day, no one can hamper your belief without your permission. No one can change or stop or block your belief without your permission. You have a choice to believe or not to believe. But if you don't have the right belief system, you could actually end up doing something that's good, but not necessarily the best for you. So you could be actually generating income and living a quality life that, as far as your peers are concerned, this is good because it's on par with everybody else. But based upon your capability, what you're built with, you could actually be doing 10 times more and living a life that is 10 times higher in quality. And because of your belief system, that can actually restrict you from that 10x level. All right. Some people believe that connected in a religious sense helps them to escape problems in life. And that belief system can actually hamper the innovation because they believe this thing. Right? So be careful with the belief systems. All right. Regrets and disappointments are things that can actually block or innovations. Now, there are two sides of this. One is we can avoid attempting certain things because we don't want to have any regrets, because we have seen other people try things and failed and therefore live in regret. That could actually block us and stop us from actually attempting things because we think because they feel, we will feel also. But then on the other side, there are things that we could try and we got hurt. And because we got hurt, the regret and the pain of that hurt could block us from attempting again or from going again. So we actually think that to avoid regret, we could stay in a nice career, a nice job, something where we are comfortable and getting paid, right? And getting a good leave system, a compensation system, right? A good package, and that is good enough. But that could actually be blocking what we are capable of, the real gem, right, of what we can actually produce. Misplaced value. Now, misplaced value really and truly deals with this whole issue of what is important to you, or what is important to your family, or what is important to those who trained you. And because you believe in what is valuable, that is not necessarily important. You believe things that are valuable, but it's not necessarily important. That could actually be blocking our innovation. A good example is thinking that having a car or a package that includes traveling or vacation is what's important. And you can place a value on that we only look for things that has a transportation or traveling. Or we can look for a job or career that's close to where we're living, or that's in a safe neighborhood. All those things, or in a particular kind of company. So we could put value on a company, in a location, or even in a product, and place the value on that instead of our innovation or creativity or ingenuity. And then we focus on that, and therefore we fight our own talents and gifts to fit into this thing. So it's like a square peg in the wrong place, right? Or square peg in the wrong hole, as they say. So misplaced value is a big issue. Now, there's another side of value, which is has to do with moral values. So your value system, for example, could be on the kind of people who work there and the kind of fun you have, or the fact that I can get connected to someone who can help me to fast track my growth or my escalation on the corporate ladder. So I can actually do that because somebody there can pull strings for me. So I can place value on that, not necessarily on something that I am creating, right, or I'm producing. So a lot of times we have that issue, and then there are unethical things that are taking place, And we live with it because, hey, this person pulled strings for me. This person did something for me. So I owe them my time. I owe them my value, right? So I have to stay there. I have to do what they tell me to do. So we have a lot of these things happening in our countries that are blocking innovation, all right? Then we have the resource focus, which is a big one also. The resource focus is where people are focused on the trappings of success, the car, the house, different compensation plans. And this goes to the level of actually giving people this notion that if you don't have money, you can't make money. And that's if your career is in the area of business or entrepreneurship. So you could actually be focused on getting income before you produce resources. And that's because we're resource focused. That resource focus is going to block our attention to our creativity or genius ideas, because we are thinking that because I don't have money, I can't create anything. Because I don't have connections, I can't create anything. Because I don't have my own house, I can't create anything. And that's a big thing. Most of the guys who started a lot of the .com companies, most of them started in the garage. At home. Most of them were young, right? Some of them were even school dropouts. I mean, there are a lot of stuff. So resource focus can block us, but resource focus comes up, or the catalyst that blocks resource focus is this whole issue of scarcity and poverty. It's a catalyst. It makes us hungry for more. And therefore, when we see people with it, we say, well, okay, until I can get that, I can't really create. No, there's another issue with this. When we are in crisis, somehow we tend to produce and create things that we didn't dream of creating without resources. So crisis, like a disaster, will take everything. And we'll take something, and that something is not physical, it's actually our own ideas, our own ingenuity, which was the only time, and create a new world, create a new environment, create new products and services in the disaster. Whether it's a flood, an earthquake, human beings grow and produce a lot after such disasters. That because really and truly we are natural innovators. But to deal with it, a lot of times you have to go through crisis. There are people who don't know how to, or they don't believe they can eat certain foods until they have a crisis, a medical crisis, because they believe that the only way they can live a certain way is by having these resources. The only way they can eat healthy is by having a lot of resources. And again, you do not need resources to create resources. Once you know you have the resource in you, you don't need physical resources, because ideas are now what create the wealth. Right? Another one, comfort zone. Being in a comfort zone actually restricts us from innovating, because most people who are employees want to be comfortable. Now, I know you enjoy being comfortable, because taking a chance or taking risk is very uncomfortable for you. And that is risk, or that chance, or that jump is what is actually needed for you to innovate and create what you have inside of you. Right? Excuse me. So it's very important to look at these things, because these things are myth. Because in the comfort zone, we could think that we are actually having the career that we want because we are comfortable, not knowing that it's actually blocking us from getting the career that we can produce, the career that is the highest level for us, because we are comfortable. We have good pay, we have good clothes, we have transportation, we are easygoing, and that actually blocks us. We have vacation, we have sick leave. I mean, there's so many things that focus on keeping us in our comfort zone. But we have to challenge our comfort zone in order to produce or become innovators in our career. If you don't become innovators, we never get the high-ticket paychecks or the high-ticket packages. Okay, looks like everybody else, right? In order to be innovators, we have to look at these myths and get over them, right? Now, another area we'll look at in the introduction is the whole area of the the design, how we were naturally designed, how we were designed originally. Or natural design or original design is really something that's totally opposite to what we experience in daily life. We normally experience things where leaders are people in positions and we are the servants, or we're the persons who serve them, or we're the persons who just ordinary. Not knowing that in our original natural design, we are born leaders. There's a question that sometime I went to a workshop and they were asking, are innovators made or born? Or entrepreneurs, are entrepreneurs made or born? And I told them both, just like leaders, you're both made and you're born that way. The challenge is that you have it naturally, just like birds naturally fly and fish naturally swim. We are natural leaders. As people, human beings, we were created that way because of how our Creator created us. Our Creator, the words that our Creator used, which is a word, rulership. Ruler really means leader or master and other things. But this word, this idea of being a leader, we have been taught that leaders are only people in certain positions. But everybody's a leader, not over people, because we were taught that leaders are some people, persons who lead others. Leaders in the true sense, in the original sense of the word, are really people who lead in an area of gifting. They lead a system, they lead a product, they lead a service. It's like your mechanic. Your mechanic really leads car repairs. That's his leadership. The artist leads design and beauty, right? The technician leads in repairing the equipment. The manufacturer leads in creating the machinery. That's a leadership. We depend on that person to do it because they have the gift of it. They're the leader in that area. So all of us are leaders, but we lead in a specific thing. Just like, for example, social services. There are people who are leaders in social services, and they don't know that their leadership positions are lead in the area of crime prevention or the area of reducing domestic violence. That's a leadership. That's a leader who needs to come in and lead in that area. See, and focus on that. But that's something we originally designed to lead in specific areas. Another word is masters. A leader and a master is similar. The master is just that a person has come to a level in their leadership where they're able to dispense the information or dispense training to those who are now coming up. They dispense the techniques and principles. So the master have students. That's the level where you have students. So that's when you have the mastery of the area of the gifting, right? So a lot of people are supposed to come to you for your training or your gifting because you have a particular level. And then they, with their own gifts, carried what you have given them to another level. And it just keeps going. But we are natural masters. We are masters of the earth. We are masters of our environment. We are masters even with using certain techniques and certain skills. All right. Then we are cultivators. Cultivators are the ones who take the bush and turn it into gardens. They will take a bush, an area of just bush, and turn it into a garden or turn it into a beautiful landscape. That's a cultivator. It develops something into something better. They will take dirt, clay dirt, and make a beautiful sculpture. Nice design, nice coloring, right? Because they are cultivators, right? And a higher area of cultivating is innovators. Innovators now do something similar to what cultivators do. The difference is that they create something that never existed before. That's the difference. So cultivators will create things that already exist and very similar. But innovators produce something that was never there. But what they do is that they take old things, combine them into new ways which were never done before and produce something else. But there's another level of innovation too, where innovators are able to create actual specific solutions to specific problems. So they don't just create for creating's sake, but they innovate because there is a solution that's needed, or Even though there's a solution, there's a better way to do it. There's another way in which it could be done that gives them a benefit, right? But so it's producing something that's similar but different in that there's a little ingredient in there that has a benefit that people needed, but it was never existed before. So those are the kind of things we are capable of inside of us. And then we have royal power. Royalty was reserved for people who have crowns, who sits on thrones, who lives in palaces. But naturally speaking, we have power. We have royal power to command things, to demand things, not from people, but from an environment, from our situations, from machinery. Like we could demand from the dirt or command the dirt and the soil to turn into energy by digging, getting a particular kind of nutrients or particular kind of chemicals from the ground, put it in a particular machinery and turn it into energy. That's what you do with oil and gas. That's command, that's royal power. So we take it from one stage and bring it to another. But we command that by believing we can do it, and we just put in the different areas, the cultivation and the innovation inside of it, and then make the command into a reality. But we have the power to change and revolutionize our environment physically and socially. Because we could command when we go into a village or a community and we can say, okay, because I'm here, there will no longer be any violence, or there will no longer be any domestic violence, or there will no longer be abuse to children because I'm living here. We can actually command that. And it takes a particular kind of knowledge and wisdom to do it, but it can be done, right? And it has been done a lot. Authority. Authority now has to do with the person who has the right to command. So you can move into an area, you can command something, but if you don't have the right to command that thing, it doesn't move or it doesn't happen. Our authority is built into our nature based upon our purpose. So if I am called to do computer work and I have the authority over that, but I try to exercise authority in mechanic work and I force myself, I go through school and training, I will learn as much as I could from the training and be able to dispense the training that I get. But I will never be able to innovate at the level of creating something new because it's not my area of authority. That's a big issue. You can have someone who has the power to do something, that's the ability to do it, but because you don't have the authority to do it, you're limited. You can only do it so much. You can only go so far. Authority gives you leverage. You actually get much more done with less effort. So you could be doing something for 2 hours and someone who has the authority could come around and do it in half an hour because that's the area of dominion. That's the area of strength. That's the gifting area. They have the authority in that area. And you took 2 hours. It's done. It's good. But you took 2 hours. That person will take half an hour. They have the authority. It's built into them. So authority is specific application of power, right? The specific application of it. And it's the person who has the right to exercise that power in that specific area, all right? So those are some of the things that we have to learn to deal with when it comes to going through the process of becoming innovators. And then as innovators, we said, the reason why we want to become innovators is because we want to be able to create things that we can never get fired from, we can never be retrenched from, we could produce anywhere in the world for the right people, for the right solutions. I mean, that it's just endless. It's just abundance when you understand the depth of innovating. All right. Now there's some obstacles to original design. All right. That's a big. These are challenges. These obstacles include physical versus spiritual. What I mean by this is we focus on physical and the results we get from physical, or the benefits we get in the physical, as opposed to the ingredients we need to put in the spiritual. And therefore, what happens is that if something happens in the physical, we complain about the thing that is happening. For example, if we lose a job, or we can't focus to create something because we are distracted by the children in the house. So we focus on that physical result instead of finding, okay, what is it I need to do? What is it I need to implement in the spiritual, in the unseen area to affect this, to change this? Instead of looking at this and trying to complain about this that is happening over here, what do I need to implement so that I can get this result? And that's a very big thing. When we learn to do that, we actually become wise. People call us wise. But it's not so much that we're wiser than them, it's just that we're just using a principle. Principle allows us to apply techniques in any area of the world, under any circumstances, and get the result. So there's a nice thought in the Bible that says, the things that are seen was made by the things that are not seen. The things that are seen, what we see around us physically, were made by the things which were not, which we don't see. So one of the things we learn to deal with, this obstacle of focusing on the physical, recession is a physical thing. We lose money, lose a job. Our cost of living, that's a physical thing. So the cost of living is going up. So our salary is not going up, or income is not going up as fast as the cost of living. So what happens is that we end up having to, we can afford less. We end up having to buy less, and therefore we suffer some way. But we don't look at, okay, what do I need to do, or what do I need to implement to bypass the cost of living? We try to fight the cost of living or fight the income, or we try to do more physical work actually. Some of us even try to go and say, okay, we need another job, 3 more jobs, which I have, right? Didn't look for them, but they came to me, right? But and the jobs are in the same area, but just in different organizations. Now, one of the wonderful things is that when you focus on the spiritual or the unseen, you attract more resources, more results, okay? Another big obstacle is time versus season. We celebrate times and dates more than seasons. So for us, anniversary and birthdays are important. Not, am I ready to take on $1 million income? Am I prepared, and am I ready to take on $1 million project? So we think that because I'm 50, I'm supposed to be getting paid $1 million. But we don't look at, am I prepared for it? Am I in the season? Did I prepare myself for this? And a lot of times we don't get what we want at the time we're supposed to get it, because at the time in terms of date or birth date or age we want to get it, because we haven't prepared ourselves to handle the issues that surround that particular position or that particular resource. A lot of people want a fast car, a wonderful, nice vehicle, but have you been able to manage your shoes and clean it and take care of it? And even your environment, your apartment, much less to be able to afford a bicycle or pay for a motorbike or a car, much less to get the fast car. So that's a big challenge, time versus season. We could actually, a lot of people celebrate anniversaries. So we celebrate somebody have a 50-year anniversary, and it's wonderful, excitement, food and stuff. And we never sit to ask, what kind of marriage do you have? We assume that they have a good marriage. We assume that they know each other, they are one with each other, that they understand each other, that there is intimacy taking place. We assume that because they have a 50-year marriage. So we celebrate the time, whereas the season or the oneness in the marriage, what we need to celebrate, hey, that these people have it together. They're in sync with each other. They may be different, but they accept and understand each other and complement each other. That is supposed to be celebrated. Those kind of things. So birthdays and anniversaries and these different deadlines, and now we have a day for everything now celebrated around the world, right? Like Day of Labor, Day of Happiness, World Day of this, like World Diabetes Day, all kind of stuff. Days, not seasons. And I'm thinking, when I hear these things, I'm thinking, okay, if you have a World Diabetes Day and a World Hypertension Day and a World Autism Day, I'm thinking, why don't we try to celebrate getting rid of diabetes, or how much we have gotten rid of it? People are aware of it already. We don't need to make people aware of it. We even, hey, we are actually reducing how much autism we have, or we have people born with autism, and through something we have developed, they no longer have it. What about that? That's the kind of celebration, that's the adjustment we need to make, right? Because we focus on time instead of season, it's difficult to make the adjustment. Now, here's another big one. Language versus ideas, or I can even say words versus ideas. There's this notion, it comes up a lot with people discussing the religious discussions, even in the area of thinking about God and thinking of God as a religious leader. And people will say, okay, when people make a statement that's in the Bible, they will say that's the word of God, or speak the word of God, man, because they make a statement. But what people don't understand is that the word in the Bible really means ideas. It doesn't mean text. Now, the challenge with focusing on words or the language is that we can actually confuse what we are experiencing with what God wants us to experience. So one person can speak English, another person speak Greek, another person Hebrew, another person Spanish, another person French. And the way the language is structured on paper can actually be confusing to each other if you read it as how it is structured. The problem is people believe what they read in the text as opposed to try to find out what is the idea of the author behind this. And it happens a lot with books. People can take up a book and read it, and based upon their culture or their understanding, they have one understanding, one belief. They catch one thing from it, but the author could have something totally different in mind. So it's so important to focus on ideas more than the words or the language. And that's why it's so important to ask people, what do you mean by that? When you say you would like to have the environment in order, or you like to have this done this way, and you put a word to it, you like synergy. What do you mean by synergy? Or what do you mean by order? It's so important to understand, to get it broken down into layman terms and described clearly in pictures, so that the idea in the person's head and the idea in your head is the same. So when you go to function, or you go to work, or you go to operate on the task, what the person have in mind is exactly what you're producing. So just the words are not enough. The ideas are what's important. Okay. Here's another one. Belief versus sight. Belief is more important than sight because what we see around us can actually restrict us from actually focusing and producing our belief in the future. A lot of people, what they do is that they look in their past, what they have experienced, and they paint their future or live their future based upon that. This is a big thing that's prevalent in the courts, because in the courts, a lot of the discussions are made based upon what they call precedents, which is something that happened in the past. They quote someone or a case in the past, and therefore they use that as a leverage to actually bring to the judge a scenario. Problem with that is a lot of things just keep going on in circles and you don't create anything new. To get outside of that, you have to actually do something different. And that comes with belief. Believing what you want as opposed to believing what you see. And that's work. That's a big obstacle. People believe more of what they see around them physically than what they believe in their heart should be. And because a lot of people don't believe what should be, they accept what is happening as reality. The expression is, well, you can't do anything about it. That's just life. Really? It's life because we created it that way. You could recreate the future by planning it and believing it and going after it in a particular way. All right? Because this sight is an obstacle to our original design and what we are capable of. Masters versus slaves, and I think I touched on that one before, that we could be A lot of people live as victims in our environment. And to a point, it's a worldwide natural acceptance of being a slave to the environment. For example, we sneeze and we say we have the cough, we have the cold, right? So we feel something scratching our throat and say I'm getting the cold. And people don't think, okay, I actually have a choice. I can choose if I want to have the cold or not. I can choose if I want to be ill or not. That's hard for people to accept, that you can actually choose. You have a choice. You're such a master that you could command the illness or whatever it is. I don't want you. It might stick around a little while, but I don't want you. No, you're not. You can't stay here. We don't want you around here. You can actually command. We feel so victim that it actually become cultured in our social life and in our society. So we feel victim to crime, victim to violence, victim to economic downturn. Instead of saying, no, fine, okay, what is it do I really want here? Okay. And then now start to figure out, okay, how can I get from where I am to where I really want to be? I don't want what I'm seeing. I don't like what's happening to me. I want something else. But that decision, the person has come to the decision, I want this. I don't want what is happening. That decision, that internal decision has to be made so that people could elevate themselves above being victims and becoming victors. That is an exercise. Because really and truly, our natural design is so powerful that the environment and the things that are happening around us can't hamper, can't infringe on our rights and the power that we have if we exercise the right principles. All right. So that is an introduction to what we are capable of, what the obstacles are, and what we can do about it. As we go down further in the actual curriculum, we'll be looking at the things that we need to do to create careers that attract us. Because of practicing these things, I've ended up with 4 jobs, right? But I still find time to play with the family. Still have time to go and play football with my son. Still find time to go training with him. Still find time to relax and go on a little honeymoon. I mean, second and third, right? Still find time to go and make groceries. Still find time to relax and watch some TV, because there's a way to do it. You can actually command your life and manage your life based upon what you want and what you envision instead of what you're seeing around you in the midst of the circumstances, right? And even with those 4 jobs, they don't stress each other out. They have their time and their place. But it takes the internal work to prepare the person, prepare you to actually do the same, where you attract things. I didn't go applying for these jobs. They came to me. These jobs came to me. People came running me down, and some of them are even offering me more. Some 2-3 years ago, I had to release some because I had some others. I had to release some. Say, okay, I need to move on. So I'm always firing jobs. You know, people always getting fired, but I just fire jobs. I move on to the next one because you're capable of. You know what you're capable of. You can do the same. All right. So enjoy it and have fun. All right.